The journey from birth to death is one of self-discovery, and some of us will learn as we go along, keep expanding and acknowledging the times where we contract back into our unconsciousness so we can expand back out into our consciousness. We are born to live and experience the events that are going to expose what is unresolved within us, but also give us an opportunity to operate from the truth of who we are. Well, there's a lot of talk about authenticity. They're authentic, they're coming from the truth. It's the truth of who they are in that moment. An evolving being is changing all the time. And a lot of us like to pigeonhole people and put them in this box and say that's who they are. But the reality is that we should be changing and moving and evolving.
Insight and Awareness Spiritual Explorer. Soul intuitive, emotional and spiritual mentor and award-winning author, Lorraine Nylon.
Welcome, explorers, and thank you for being part of the adventure. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. If you've got any questions or topics that you'd like discussed, just email them and they go in a list of things that we consider. We can't get to them all, but we do consider all options that come our way. Today, I want to jump on an email that we got from Chantel. Now, Chantel said, what's the journey? You hear the word journey all the time. What is it actually about and why is it important? Which I thought was really good questions. And so thank you, Chantel, for sending that in. When we're looking at the journey, and you do hear the word kicked around a lot, I class it as soul maturing. We'll go through the cycle of how this works, and I'll also explain a prophecy about the times we're in, which you might find really interesting. But it's all related. So when we're looking at the journey, so we're born into this world and we come with a blueprint. So, and I like to refer to it as a mud map. And it has events, it has different parts of ourselves that are unresolved, that we're electing this lifetime to resolve. So, for instance, as an example, say in previous lives that you had a lot of issues around jealousy, resentment, those kind of emotions. And those emotions, those reactions, would have created all these different scenarios that you've lived out in your different lifetimes. So you may elect that this lifetime I'm going to deal with my resentment and my jealousy. So you are going to have preordained experiences that are going to bring up those energies trapped in your unconsciousness. So some people refer to that as your shadow self, your emotional baggage, all those kind of things. I refer to it as your soul's unconsciousness, the collective energy of your personal soul's unconsciousness. So that energy is going to come up. It's going to come up because it is within your energy. So all souls are born for resolving an evolutionary process. We have to resolve what we created before that is out of kilter, meaning not in alignment with the truth of who we are and the truth of where we come from. But we are creators. We are co-creating down here. And when we don't know how to deal with our emotions, we suppress them, as you would have heard me say before, but we regenerate those emotions. So I might suppress jealousy and resentment, and it will turn into bitterness and anger and judgment and the willingness to be manipulative and all sorts of things. So from that one act of suppressing one emotion, we can generate more emotions. And guess what? They all become things that you need to resolve. So the journey is actually having experiences that pulls up the energy within your unconsciousness already. So it is presented in front of you, and then you have the option of what choice you're going to do with that. How are you going to deal with it? Are you going to suppress it? Are you going to play with it? Are you going to generate more of the same energy? So we are constantly in this contracting and expanding process. We expand our consciousness, the truth of who we are, when we deal with and we operate from the truth of our soul. And most of the energies that we find within the truth of our souls, I refer to as core essences. And they are the essence of unconditional love. Unconditional love is made up of a lot of different energies. I refer to them as core essences: kindness, patience, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, clarity. There's a whole list, way more than what I've written about too, by the way. So those are our natural essences because they are of truth energy. But we also have created energy that's out of kilter with them. We can be deceptive, we can be sly, we can be indifferent, we can be selfish and uncaring and all those. When we do that, we are creating unconscious energy, and it's our energy. So if we fast forward to the end of the journey, the life, when we pass away and our soul returns back to where we come from, whatever label you want to give that, when it returns, the energy of our unresolved emotions goes back into the collective energy. Now, here's the catch. When you are born again, your next life, whatever energy is yours will return. So, regardless of our denial of our own emotions, beliefs, and fears, mentalities, all these kind of things create the unconscious energy. It is yours until you resolve it. So, the journey is about actually being really honest about yourself and dealing with whatever is left unresolved. So you are taking out the unconscious energy that you are supplying to the collective energy of mankind. And I've always used, it's probably a little bit old fashioned now, but I've always used mankind is a reference to souls within a human body that have forgotten they are souls. And humanity, when we operate from our core essences, is souls recognizing they are a soul within a human body having this experience. They remember that they are of this truth energy and they operate from their core essences the best they can while dealing with whatever is unresolved within themselves. And that is an evolutionary path. So when we cross over into where we come from, we are still extremely aware of our unresolved emotions, our creations that we have left. And we are aware that somewhere along the line we have to come back down and clean up our own backyard. That's how I say it. So we will put ourselves with soul groups and soul experiences and events that will make sure that we have an opportunity to recognize our own energy. Spirituality is about recognizing your own energy and being very, very honest about it and going through the process of actually dealing with it and then walking into the unknown of who are you without all your unresolved emotions when you have freedom of choice. Because when we're crossed over and go back to our origins, we are of the essence of our soul. It is at the forefront of who we are. Like I said, we're still aware of our unresolved emotions. Whereas when we are down here, many of us, our unresolved emotions are at the forefront. And for those a little further down the track of the evolutionary path, are aware of both. So when we are unconscious to the truth of our unresolved emotions, our emotional baggage, then we're not in the process of resolution and evolution. So that can just keep us regenerating and expanding our unconsciousness. Now, who are we to say that that's not the path that you are meant to walk this lifetime? And maybe that's what you need to do. But for those that have that inner knowing that there is more to this life than that what they've experienced, then it is about being very honest and dealing with your unresolved emotions. That doesn't mean you have to align to anyone else's spiritual practice or religious belief. It means that you have to know yourself and take self-responsibility. And that is easier said than actually done. The journey from birth to death is one of self-discovery. And some of us will learn as we go along, keep expanding, and acknowledging the times where we contract back into our unconsciousness so we can expand back out into our consciousness. We are born to live and experience the events that are going to expose what is unresolved within us, but also give us an opportunity to operate from the truth of who we are. Well, there's a lot of talk about authenticity. They're authentic, they're coming from the truth. It's the truth of who they are in that moment. An evolving being is changing all the time. And a lot of us like to pigeonhole people and put them in this box and say that's who they are. But the reality is that we should be changing and moving and evolving. So you can have someone that's had a very hard childhood and a lot of rejection and abandonment and disappointment. They can be stuck in that not good enough energy and feel like they have to apologize for their existence. And as they become more and more self-aware and they realize the kindness within their heart that is natural and the compassion they've had, which caused them to suppress their own emotions and at times create a narrative that protected them from the harshness of the world. All of a sudden, they can actually have their compassion, but not aligned to any story they need to tell themselves. They can have their compassion and be in the truth of their reality and objectively observe, witness, but know within themselves that they are worthy, because they are born significant, to feel good about themselves and not have to seek approval from everyone around them to try and secure that they're not as bad as they believe they are. And they're the kind of really intricate things that are stuck within our unconsciousness that we'll all be confronted with some version of that. There's not a person alive that isn't at some stage going to be confronted with the belief of not being good enough. How we deal with that sets up the path of actually being more honest with ourselves. Spirituality is about being truthfully honest with ourselves. And to do that, we have to go through the maze of our own negative self-beliefs, our fears, our mentalities, our mindsets, all the stuff we have stored. And that is part of the journey. But along that journey, we also have to accept our good stuff. See, it is really easy for people to feel unlovable. And it is really easy to feel like no one cares. And those are the same people that will struggle when they do feel someone care and love for them. It becomes easier to hold and believe our negativity than actually accept and embrace the truth of our soul. So sometimes this evolutionary journey is not easy. And we do have pitfalls. We can be going along really well, and then all of a sudden we can fall into a heap, an emotional heap. We can think we're holding to our own boundaries, and somebody can say something really nasty to us that shocks us. And part of the evolutionary process is dealing with our own shock and dealing with it in a way that holds us self-respecting. And that allows us to hold up our own self-esteem and hold to the confidence of who we know we are. No one knows you better than yourself. People observe things, but they don't know how it feels. Your pain is so personal. Your emotional pain is so personal. You can describe it to me, and I will run it through my filters, and I will have a perception of it based on what I've experienced, but it's not a true understanding of your pain. So when you know that how you feel is unique to you, then you can give yourself permission to really be in the exploration of it. And that doesn't mean you have to be looking for every bad thing about yourself and staying stuck in that process of this is wrong with me, this is wrong with me, this is wrong with me. It just means that in different experiences that you have, that you give yourself a moment to choose how you want to respond. And every time that you choose something different to what is already in your system, you're chipping away at it. It's losing its power over you. We have a lot of defensive mechanisms, and I can assure you, when I'm working with clientels, when I hit that core of their negative self-beliefs, I call it Pandora's box, but the seat of their soul denial, the part of themselves that denies their own soul. And in there, you'll find a lot of the really harsh, self-loathing, negative beliefs. We're so used to protecting them that we will fight tooth and nail to secure that nobody finds them, nobody knows them, and we're not confronted with them. Part of the true evolutionary journey is that you need to allow yourself permission to look at those things as well. It is always treacherous ground, and that is where people can be moving along beautifully in their evolutionary path, getting a great understanding of themselves, and they hit that pocket where they've got to open up Pandora's box and see what is in there. That they will often, I have met anyone, including myself, that hasn't automatically gone to our defense and protective mechanisms. Part of the catch is actually realizing that is what is occurring, and then giving yourself permission to be compassionate towards yourself as you start to open the box of your own soul denial and let yourself really see them. And most of them, once they're opened and you're looking at them, it's way easier than what the protection was. The protection of this is really hard work, and we will sometimes burn the house down to protect the box buried underneath it. And when you find yourself in a situation like that, where you have absolutely destroyed relationships, annihilated yourself in different forms of self-loathing, make sure that you come in and take that full accountability. Apologize to whoever you need to, whether they accept it or not, you'll feel better for acknowledging the reality of your own actions. Give yourself permission to know that you are changing in your understanding. What you know now is not what you knew back then. So that you give yourself permission to use your awareness as a stepping stone. Because what happens is a lot of people go, oh my goodness, I can't believe I've been doing that. And then they retreat to that self-loathing and self-judgment because of what they're aware of, what they've been doing over time. Give yourself permission to know when you know better, you do better. We will, in an evolutionary journey, be shocked in our own energy and the things that we have created. But if we stay in the shock and hold ourselves in harsh self-judgment, we will not move. And that is the purpose of the journey. Life's a journey. We're meant to start somewhere and finish somewhere different. Life has its own ebbs and flows, and I use a river to explain it to people. You're going to find whirlpools where you just get sucked into your own unresolved emotions. And you're gonna have to struggle. You're going to have to really pull yourself out of the whirlpool to see the reality of it. You're also going to get smashed up on a few rocks, things that you just think will not move, will not budge. And everything is changeable. Everything is already changing. You're getting older. Your understanding and your experiences are different to what they used to be yesterday. So if you hold on and cling to what was working yesterday but is not working today, you're stuck on a rock. Let yourself swim in the river. Try not to swim upstream. You'll see people who oppose everything, absolutely everything. They're expert gaslighters, actually. But what they're doing is they're fighting their own reality. And they're fighting so hard, they're swimming upstream because they don't want to be honest about their own inner self. If you swim with stream and let life show you things, let your relationships, good, bad, and ugly, show you the truth of what was left within yourself that needs resolving, then all of a sudden, the swim becomes an evolutionary journey and you become stronger, more self reliant, more self resilient in everything you do because you're not fighting up against reality. Life's got its own ebbs and flows, and there's some experiences we cannot escape. They are going to happen. I often say they're in play. A lot of the reasons that we have why it shouldn't happen are very sensible. Young deaths, why should that happen? But it does. They're questions that we may never have an answer that really secures something for us. The only thing we have is an acceptance of reality. So you're either in denial of reality or in acceptance of reality, or in the mid ground where you're struggling between the two. And the more that we align with accepting the reality, doesn't mean that we say things can't change, doesn't mean we become a doormat. It means that we acknowledge the truth of what we're experiencing and we make decisions from the truth of what we understand. And that is how we create real change. There comes a time in every soul journey that the reconnaissance is over. You know, there's no particular age for everyone. It's your own unique journey. But there's an activating event. There's a preordained age that you were going to get. By then, you will have all the experiences that you needed to have to pull up your unconscious energy. And then it's about you. You've done your reconnaissance. Now it's about making the choice about what you are fully aware of. And when you accept that, some of the worst experiences in our lives can become those pivotal moments where they created a trajectory of our own evolution. Now, it's not just one, there might be several. Everyone's a little bit different. So we all come into this world with a blueprint, and they're all different, they're all unique, and it's a mud map, as I said before. And there's a period where you're just in the reconnaissance phase. You're just meant to be experiencing things, and it's going to drag up your unconsciousness, as I explained before. But there are those with what I refer to as the no rock unturned. And those people with those kind of blueprints, once you hit the stage where it's really about what choices are you going to make, this is what you wanted to evolve. Sometimes you'll have an absolutely horrifying experience. And I refer to the aftermath of that as the cracking. You didn't open Pandora's box. There was no more room to suppress anything. And the box is cracking open, and all of everything that you need to resolve is going to flood your system. Now, unfortunately, sometimes this happens too hard and too fast, and we are completely overwhelmed by it. And it is called the cracking because everything that you used to use, suppression, denial, avoidance, numbing, whatever it is, no longer works. And anyone that's experienced that will understand it. Here's your opportunity. It will take a while, but start dealing with one thing at a time. And you will find that your evolutionary path will come faster and faster and faster because your honesty. And that's why there is a cracking, because it removes any chance of denial, any chance of suppression, and you are going to be confronted with everything that's unresolved within you. It's an extremely personal experience. People can watch it and look at you from afar and go, what is going on? But if you know that's what you're doing, you're going to deal with it a lot easier. There are other people, they're never going to resolve a thing this lifetime because they've elected not to, and they're just purely in the reconnaissance. And that's okay. There's no scaling or judgment on our blueprint or our evolutionary path. It takes us as long as it takes. We have the choice if we want to really get involved in our own evolution. It's a choice that only we can make. And there's a prophecy that talks about us being in the great awakening time. And this is the way that I've sort of looked at the prophecy, and I've spoke of it before, is that we're going to have all these experiences and there's going to be a time, so the prophecy says, that we choose our soul path, and those they refer to as no heads, and it's classed as a Hopi Indian prophecy, and I don't pretend to be an expert on it, it's just my read on it, is that they refuse to actually get to a point where they recognize the reconnaissance period is over and we have to make choices about our own evolutionary system. If we're going to evolve or we're going to repeat. And those that refuse to look at themselves and be really honest, they call them no heads, and they will repeat the lower ebbs of mankind energy. So they will stay in their narcissism, they will be indifferent, they will operate from jealousy, and they will be resentful and bitter and judgmental, and they won't deal with themselves, and they are electing their soul path. Now, whatever that means, I don't know. My brief understanding is they get to repeat the cycle of evolution and evolution. And there are those that will deal with themselves and in their own personal way. And they will be more honest with themselves, and they will take self-responsibility and accountability, and they'll be present in their life. And they are choosing to have the evolutionary soul path. And wherever that goes, I'm not sure either. But it is believed that we are in that time of choosing. So if you are contemplating, and like I said, this isn't aligning to any religion or any belief, this is your own personal journey. If you are electing to really be honest with yourself, then you might be on the path of evolution. If you are absolutely refusing and still worshipping judgment and control and manipulation, those kind of things, then you're going to be stuck in that cycle for a while. Now, whether that prophecy is true or untrue, I don't know. I think there's something to it, and I think the most important thing you can do is be honest with yourself. So life is a journey of self-discovery, and to do that, you've got to learn how to be honest with yourself. It's not necessarily jumping on a belief and controlling yourself to a belief or running rituals or any of those kind of things. They're just experiences. It's really about you getting to know who you are and choosing how you engage with the life that you're having, the reality that you're experiencing. I hope this helps, Chantel. I hope you realize there's a lot more beautiful, unique energy within you than all the negativity that you've experienced. It's time for Flip the Book. Your Insight and Awareness is the book on top of the pile, and I am deliberately opening it up to the section on the journey, but I've opened it up to 137, and I'm just going to go to the top full paragraph. When you become consumed with your own fictitious image of yourself, you align with and become indifferent to truth and willingly participate in your denial of reality. Your images and the beliefs become the source you anchor your control structures to. You protect your control structures and beliefs with your resistance to and denial and avoidance of truth. You disassociate from feeling, the possibility of resolving your unresolved emotions with truth, and apply yourself to an image of how you want to be perceived. You seek validation for the images of yourself and never question why. You desperately want validation and approval. It's a big paragraph. You deny compulsively wanting more recognition, approval, and acceptance, believing you can disguise your unresolved emotions and ignore the reality of being a significant, unique, independent individual soul of true source divine origin consciousness, which is just a label that was given to where we come from. But whatever label you want from where we come from, your origins, divinity, whatever it is, I would just replace that in there. So my take on that is that a lot of the time we're spending the journey in a false image of ourselves, and that part of the journey is stripping away the false image to find out what is the authentic self. Who are we? What do we really feel? What do we believe? And I believe that is part of our journey. And we seek validation from outside ourselves and forget that validating ourselves is one of the most important things we can do. Sometimes you can have an act of kindness and come from a completely loving heart, and the people around you are not able to see, feel, or recognize it because they're running it through their filters. So you can be completely compassionate and accused of being completely judgmental. We can have people that are coming from a very protective and want to help us position. But if we feel their control energy, then we feel like they're trying to control us. We're very sensitive to the energies we feel. And we're not honest enough with ourselves and others that we're aware of it. And we know that if we point that out to someone, they will be offended because they're trying to protect that part of themselves. So, for me, the journey of life and spirituality is about really understanding our own motives, our intent, and taking responsibility for the consequences. Now, when I say that, if I'm coming from a compassionate place and someone takes it as judgment, that's their consequences. But if I'm coming from a judgmental place and I hurt someone, I have to take responsibility for that. So you really have to understand your own intent and the motives behind what you do and say for you to feel more secure in your self-understanding. I hope you enjoy the content. I hope that answered your question. And please like and subscribe. That helps us build the channel.